Hello and welcome back to CinemaBurger. I'm Scott Berger and I bring you movie reviews from a different perspective. Today we're here to talk about the Hulu original movie Palm Springs, starring Andy Samberg and Kristen Milotti. Andy and Kristen star as Niles and Sarah. Niles is the boyfriend of one of the bridesmaids and Sarah is the maid of honor / sister of the bride. So they're both at this wedding, and it seems like your typical romantic comedy, but there is a sci-fi twist. It turns out they keep reliving the same day. So you might be thinking, oh, is this like Groundhog's Day or like Happy Death Day or something like that? The answer is kind of yes, but I'll get to that in a moment. So at its heart, Palm Springs is a romantic comedy. Now, I think romantic comedies are okay. They're not personally my favorite because I feel they're all similar plots, but then again, every genre is essentially the same plot, just with different situations, I believe. So this movie kind of gets the romantic comedy introductions out of the way quickly. Both characters are very jaded at this wedding, and they connect based on a mutual jaded point of view about weddings and love and all that kind of stuff. So they get that stuff out of the way, and then we get into the more sci-fi element. Because throughout the movie, in the beginning, Niles and Sarah are getting along. They start to like talk and stuff, and they go to the beach and they're possibly going to have sex and stuff like that. And up until now, it's your typical romantic comedy, when all of a sudden Niles is shot with an arrow, and then Sarah is like freaking out. He starts running away, and we see a guy with a bow and arrow chasing after Niles. Now it seems Niles knows who this person is, but Sarah has no idea, as well as the audience. And they get chased. Niles gets chased. And he runs into this cave with a big light, and he says to Sarah, "Don't come in." And all of a sudden, the day resets. And Niles wakes up in his bed like he did in the beginning of the movie. So this definitely takes like a turn really quick, and we're introduced to the more interesting plot. Now, my first thought was, oh, is this like a dream because Niles is so just like jaded about everything? But it wasn't, it actually happened. So now Sarah is experiencing this infinite time loop. Now, based on Niles' perspective, he's been experiencing this for a long time. It could have been days, years, months. He knows the day so perfectly that he figures life is meaningless, everything is meaningless. He puts in as little effort as possible, and Sarah just wants to escape this time loop. And it's interesting that Niles says, "Oh, you're not familiar with time loops," as to acknowledge that other movies have done this concept before, say Groundhog's Day, Happy Death Day, things like that. Now, as the day resets each time, Niles kind of reveals more information about what's been going on. In the beginning of the movie, there's an earthquake, and that apparently reveals this cave where this time vortex, portal, whatever, exists, and that it kind of sucks you in. So Niles was trying to prevent Sarah from being sucked in because he wouldn't want anyone else in this existence. So throughout the movie, he also explains that the reason he didn't want Sarah in there is that he didn't want to bring another person into this. Because it turned out the person who shot Niles with a bow and arrow was played by J.K. Simmons. He was another guest at the wedding. And they partied together, they did drugs. And at one point, J.K. Simmons' character says, "Oh, I wish this day could go on forever." So Niles brings J.K. Simmons into this time loop, and then he got pissed off and he tries to kill Niles a lot. Now, even though nothing is meaningful because the day resets, pain still exists, so they still got to be careful, like if they kill themselves or whatever. They talk about how many times they've killed themselves. So it really gets into the sci-fi element, and that is what's interesting. And also I like, since this type of sci-fi genre has kind of been established with other movies like this, they don't spend a montage of both main characters trying to figure out how to get out of the loop. Because Niles knows already, we don't need to see that part. We kind of see it with Sarah a little bit, but not to the point where it takes up a good chunk of the movie. So they explain that they don't know how they got in there, that he's been living this day forever, like other movies, but they're just trying to have fun at one point. And like I said before, this is a romantic comedy at heart, so Niles and Sarah get closer because they're the only ones who remember the day, of course, so they have more fun in the world that they're in. But then things get heated where Sarah actually wants to try to get out, and Niles just wants to stay there because it's easier than living your real life, things like that. So at this point, I'm going to say, a little more than half, 2/3 into the movie. This is the point where the two main characters split apart, as they would in a romantic comedy. So Sarah tries to learn, actually she does learn quantum physics to figure out how to actually get out of the time loop. And what helps is when you relive the same day and retain all knowledge is that you can learn things like quantum physics and actually get out of the time loop. She gets books from a library, she watches YouTube videos, she talks to physicists, and she figures out some sort of theory on how to actually get out of the loop, which I won't get into, but it's basically she has to convince Niles to come with her because they do have feelings for each other. And Niles is like, no, why can't we just stay here together where everything is meaningless but we're together? And it's like, no, I want to live my life. So that's where the movie kind of takes a turn for me again, because it's getting into your typical romantic comedy plot lines, which have been overplayed to death. Yeah, anytime it gets involved in the romantic comedy heavy plot points, that's where my mind like checks out, because I've seen that 100 times. The sci-fi plot is more interesting. Now, in terms of performances, Andy Samberg is his funny self, but to be honest, he's nothing special in my opinion. It's Kristen Milotti that really stands out to me. Now, I know she's been on How I Met Your Mother and she's been in Wolf of Wall Street, but this is the first starring role and main character role that I've seen her in, and she is a good actress. I think she's really funny, and she works well with Andy Samberg. So she is really my favorite part of the movie, as well as J.K. Simmons in the supporting role. He's just weird in J.K. Simmons. Now, Palm Springs does have a kind of open-ended finale. I'm not going to talk about that in this. I want you to see the movie for yourself. But it makes you think, definitely. Now, sometimes open-ended movies can be frustrating, but in this case it's not, I believe, just because the matters is that the two main characters are happy together no matter where they are, which is the point of the movie. Now, earlier, when they're trying to figure out how to get out of the time loop, they're thinking, oh, do I have to do something kind of selfless? Do I have to sacrifice myself, do good deeds, things like that? But the point is that you should be with the one you love no matter where you are, I guess. Which is a fine message. Now, I had heard kind of mixed reviews of this movie before I watched it. I also didn't really look up the plot at all, and I was pleasantly surprised, especially when the sci-fi element kicked in, because it really was out of nowhere. it kind of showed Andy Samberg's depth as an actor. He can do some drama acting, but he's mainly good at comedy. I'd give Palm Springs, I'm going to say a 3 out of 5 because it suffers from the somewhat cliche romantic comedy elements. The sci-fi element really helps, but it does fall back on your typical boy meets girl, boy and girl get along, boy and girl split up, boy and girl get back together. That is every romantic comedy ever made. So, like I said, I do recommend it. It is a Hulu original. So, yeah, check it out. Now, for the month of October, I will be doing Halloween movies, Halloween/horror related movies from both Amazon and Netflix. There's a plenty that have been coming out within the end of September and coming throughout October. So I'm Scott Berger, and I'll see you next time.